So we've been showing videos. We're on our last week of our Untethered Soul series. So we've been showing videos of our community members who answering the question, what this community means to me, as a way to let you see what it means to those of you who are in community and not just those of us who stand up on the platform and tell you about what unity means. So we're gonna hear Pat Miller today.
Good morning. My name is Pat Miller, and I want to share with you what Unity of Stuart means to me. I hadn't belonged to a church for over 30 years when I found Unity of Stuart. I came here 5 years ago. Reverend William was talking about the Four Agreements, which is my all-time favorite book, and I was hooked. So I came, I learned, I grew. That's not what I want to say. I'm sorry.
That's okay, you can start right from there. We'll edit it.
Yeah. You can just start again when you're ready.
I'm embarrassed.
Nah,
now.
No,
please.
no,
You haven't
no.
seen me try to do a video.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
She moves all over.
Good morning. My name is Pat Miller, and I want to share with you what Unity of Stuart has meant to me. I hadn't belonged to a church for over 30 years when I found Unity, about 5 years ago. Reverend William was talking about the Four Agreements, which is my all-time favorite book, and I was hooked. Since I've been coming here, I've grown, I've learned through the truth talks, the meditations, the unity principles, and the Course in Miracles. I also want to tell you how much I appreciate all the kindness and love that has been shown to my husband, Jack. It's really been healing for him. So, just in a nutshell, I want to say that through the truth lessons and the meditations and the love and the energy, the people that I've met here, the friendships I've made, and of course the music, I always feel better when I leave here on a Sunday morning than I did when I arrived. I think I covered it all. That's not very long, but I was trying to be concise.
That's courage in action, yeah? Yeah, all right. So, 7 weeks. This is the 7th week we've been together studying our book, The Untethered Soul, by Michael Singer. And what we've been doing these last weeks, and for those of you who are new, pick up anything you like on the table outside. We have affirmation cards, we have posters, and if you want to get the study group guide, you can also get that. Also, there's videos of all of the services on our website, and there's also CDs available of our services as well. So what we've been doing, and why you might want to go back and start from the beginning, is we've been increasing our awareness of what it means to be tethered to. First week was being tethered to the inner roommate. That part of us that never shuts up, quite frankly. The part of us that just keeps chattering away, just making judgments, harbors resentments, and just keeps going on and on and on about what is happening in our lives. And it keeps us from being present to our lives. When we allow that voice, that inner roommate, to run our lives, it keeps us from being present. Another thing that we've seen is that it's the energy of the heart that allows us to begin to release that inner chatter. It's the energy of the heart that is the key to healing, to embracing change, and to finding freedom. And that's what we've been doing, as well as stepping into that seat of consciousness, what I call that source that's in the center of us that knows, right? We all have that source. And what we've been looking at is how to connect and how to live from that source rather than living from the inner roommate. We've practiced releasing our mental melodrama with compassion and love, not judging ourselves for it, but noticing when it happens, because of course that's the first step, becoming aware of when we are letting ourselves be driven by our mental melodrama. And we talked about moving beyond our comfort zones through non-resistance and heart-centered authentic action. Right? All these facets contribute to living an awakened life. So I have a question, especially for those of you who have fully immersed yourself in these 7 weeks. Are you doing it? Are you living a more awakened life? Anybody? Yes? Yes, right? Living a more awakened life. Or as Michael Singer puts it, are you living life or living mind? Are you living life or living mind? Are you deepening your ability to stay connected to your authentic self, or are you surfing along, just letting the default way of being be who you are? The conditioned behaviors lead the way. Living life or living mind? I don't know about you, but I find that for me, and I've said this before, it's a moment-by-moment experience for me. Right? It's not, and again, I'm a stand for the miracle lightning bolt that changes me forever. Right? And then I don't have to do any more work. I'm a stand for that. But that's not how it's shown up in my life right now. It's a moment-by-moment experience, and I need reminders, right? I have the great good fortune of being reminded every week as I sit down to write a lesson. I have the great good fortune to be married. That's a reminder. I have a great good fortune to have a teenager. That's a good reminder to stay within, to stay connected to source, and to live my life from that source, from my heart, rather than from my head. A pious man who had reached the age of 105 suddenly stopped going to synagogue. Alarmed by the old fellow's absence after so many years of faithful attendance, the rabbi went to see him. He found him in excellent health, so the rabbi asked, "How come after all these years we don't see you at services anymore?" The old man lowered his voice and he said, "I'll tell you, Rabbi, when I got to be 90, I expected God to take me any day. But then I got to be 95, and then 100, and then 105. So I figured, God's very busy and he must have forgotten about me. And I don't want to remind him." Right? Sometimes we think that if we go below the radar, right? If we don't activate our heart, if we don't activate our awakening, we can fly below the radar and kind of get along, just to go along and get along. But that's not how it works. Right? In order to continue to live this life and to become truly awake and truly who we are at depth, we have to be seen. We have to be seen in all of our glory, in all of our humanity, in all of our holiness. We have to be seen. When we make mistakes, when we do well, we have to have the courage to be seen so that we can live our lives from that awakened place. Yes? So I have a question for you as we enter into these last few chapters of the book. If you suddenly realized that this was your last day on the planet, how would you be? Where would you be? Who would you be? Who would you call? Who would you spend the day with? It's a sobering question, isn't it? Because truly, there is no guarantee for any of us that there will be a tomorrow. No guarantee. Nobody gets out of this life alive. And there's no guarantee for any of us. Life on planet Earth has an entrance and an exit for each one of us. And that exit, that physical death, can be our greatest teacher. Can be our greatest teacher. Michael Singer says it's truly a cosmic paradox that one of the best teachers in all of life turns out to be death. He says no person or situation could ever teach you as much as death has to teach you. While someone could tell you that you are not your body, death really shows you. While someone could remind you of the insignificance of the things that you cling to, Death takes them all away in a second. The question is, are you going to wait until that last moment to let death be your teacher? Now, this is about acknowledging the impermanence of life. It's not to be fearful about it or to look at it in a morbid way, but it's about coming into mindfulness about it and knowing that our life on this plane is limited and living in a way that honors it. Living in a way that honors it. So what would it like if you were totally present to your life? What would that look like? Imagine that this is the last time you're experiencing this, whatever it is you're doing, that this is the last time you're experiencing that. It's pretty sobering, isn't it? Think about that. My husband's mom, Betty Lou, died at a relatively young age. She was only in her early 60s from colon cancer. And as she was nearing the end of her life, Ross and she were sitting and talking, and she said to him, "Can you believe this is happening to me? Do what you want to do. Remember that life is short." Right? Do what you want to do. Life is too short. It's important to live our lives awake and present to it every day. So what would be important to you if you knew you were in your last days? I want to tell you about Bonnie Ware, who was a hospice nurse who wrote this viral blog post about the 5 major regrets that people have when they're nearing death. And the first one, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Right? It's about honoring our dreams. It's about becoming who we truly are. It's about taking a step out in faith and in courage to do what enlivens us. Number 2, I wish I didn't work so hard. Right? Nobody on their deathbed ever says, I wish I spent more time at the office. Right? It's about living our priorities. Right? It's about expressing our passion and our purpose. It's about spending time with our family and our loved ones. The third one, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Being authentic, simply put, telling those that you love them that you love them. Telling those that you love them, that you love them. I want to give you a little bit of a challenge today. As you leave here, and if you want to do it right now, go right ahead. Pull out your phone and text somebody and tell them that you love them. Either do it now, or do it later, or do it today. Take a risk, and if it's somebody that you haven't told in a very, very long time, do it. Do it. Number 3. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Right? We all, many of us, most of us perhaps have friends that we've lost touch with over the years. It's important when we're on our way out, on our deathbeds, to know that we stayed connected with those that we love, with the friends of our hearts. And number 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. I have a number 6, and this is, I wish that when I was 17, with the physicality and the body that I had, that I knew I was beautiful. So now, in my 50s, I'm just going to know that I'm beautiful right now and not think that there's something else. Because when I'm in my 70s, I'm going to look back at this body and say, wow, she was quite something. Right? That's the lesson. Be happy with what we have, with where we are right now. We talked about that last week. That happiness was a choice. Happiness is a choice. And the regret is that it's a choice that's not made often enough. Right? One of the things that I find myself saying a lot when I'm in the depths of something, whether it's sadness or despair or anger or resentment, is to say, this too shall pass, because guess what? This too shall pass, no matter what it is. So make a choice to be happier in my life, right? To take all of that into our heart and know that from this moment on, we can choose to be happy in whatever is happening. We can choose happiness. I've done a fair amount of reading, perhaps you have too, about people who have near-death experiences. Right? And you can't help notice in the books that you read and the interviews that you see that it changes people at depth, right? That near-death experiences changes people at depth. They come back with no fear of death, with a renewed sense of purpose, with an attitude of stop wasting time, right? Stop wasting time on things that aren't important and get on with it. So the question becomes then, what is it? What is getting on with it? Well, that's just for you to discern, right? That's for you to discern what it means to get on with it. We could go back to these five things, these 5 regrets. But getting on with it means getting on with our truly authentic life, with what turns us on, with what brings us into connection with the world, with what serves the world, yes? In my experience as minister and doing this sacred work, I've had the honor to be a witness and to accompany some as they face their imminent death. And I have observed that there's a difference in people who are aware and who face it head on and who are present to their lives, as opposed to people who are either in denial or who haven't done some of that work, the work that it takes to become awake in our lives. And I've noticed what a difference it is. And I've sat with people who are at peace with their lives, who have said what they needed to have said. They have done what they wanted to do in life, and how slipping into the next realm is peaceful. And I've been with people who have been in denial, who have issues, who have family members that they haven't spoken to, or have things that they have left unsaid, and how difficult it is to go peacefully. So I know that when my time comes, if I'm aware of my time is coming, I'm going to face it head on. And right now, what I'm going to do is live my life. As this story that Michael Singer says, he says this little story about this master yogi who lives as if there is a sword hanging over his head, held by a spider web. This is how to become friends with death and letting death be our teacher. If there's something that you need to do, if there's something that you need to say, if there's someone that you need to be, do it, say it, be it, because we never know. And we can have this sword held by a spider web be our friend, not in a fearful way, but in an uplifting way, in a supporting way. Being mindful to live in the moment and not take anything for granted. So instead of wishing for more time, right? Instead of wishing for more time, which we can't control, let's take the opportunity to wish for more depth of life, for a more expansive way of being in life, more depth of experience. Gandhi said, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever." To fully live and work and be and experience, embracing life in a balanced way. Now, none of this that we're talking about today means that you need to go out and quit your job, or it means that you have to do everything on your bucket list, like right now, or it means that you have to leave and go somewhere else and start all over. That's not what we're talking about. It means going deeper into whatever is showing up in your life. It means going deeper and not pushing anything away. It means going into your heart and allowing life to be life in you, connected with that source in all times, in all experiences. One of the last tools he talks about is being balanced in life. Has anyone here ever lived a life out of balance? Right? Amen. You know what it's like, right? Too much of one thing to the detriment of another. Too much dessert, not enough salad. Too much salad, not enough dessert. Right? He talks about the Tao. The balanced living is the Tao, which simply put is the middle way. It's moderation. It's not living at either end of the extremes. Because life needs to be balanced. There are polarities that need to be balanced. Right? If we let the pendulum swing all the way over here, If we just do this all the time, there's no balance. So what we're called to do is to bring things into balance so that there is a dynamic stability. Not a stagnation, but a dynamic stability. An honoring of both the yin and the yang. Right? No extremes. Because if we hang out in the extremes, we waste our energy and we get out of balance. I've been there. I know you have too. So breathing is a great example. If I asked you what was more important, inhaling or exhaling, you would say yes. Right? You would say yes. It would be ridiculous and impossible to suddenly decide that I was only going to inhale. Right? They're interdependent. Inhaling and exhaling are interdependent. It is important to be active or to rest. Yes. It is important to be with people or to be alone. Yes. Structured or spontaneous. Yes. Right-brained or left-brained. Yes. If we do one to the detriment of the other, we get feedback somewhere that something's out of whack. And then we are called to take steps to restore that balance. So, at the center is our dynamic equilibrium, right? Singer says you can't touch it, but you can be at one with it. It's the doorway, our direct connection to the divine, where we find balance. Inhabiting every experience, being aware, alive, and awake in the zone, looking for depth rather than time. It's here where we find God. All sacred scripture tells us this. We listen to the mystics about this sacred place. It's dynamic. There's no separation. There's only one of us, right? It's a place of deep appreciation and expansiveness, the sense of self becoming more. It's a direct experience of God. Author and teacher Father Richard Rohr says this: if you want to find God, then honor the God within you, and you will always see God beyond you. For it is only God in you who knows where and how to look for God. I love that, right? Because I don't know about you, but when I came into spirit life, I wanted to know about the God outside, right? I wanted to have that intellectual understanding of what that was, and then I could bring it in, right? So what Father Richard Rohr says is it's only the God in us that can find the God outside of us. So it behooves us. It's life-affirming and life-giving to awaken and to be aware of that God in us, of our godness, of our goodness, of our holy vibration. That's what we're about. That's what we need to be doing here. Because we'll never see it out there if we don't uncover it and unearth it and excavate it right here. Never will. We don't have to create it. Let's remember that. We don't have to create it. We don't have to force it. We must, however, be committed to showing up as the whole beings we are. All of us, the stuff that we like and the stuff that we don't like. We need to be committed. We need to be consciously connected to Source, allowing Spirit to live, move, and have its being as us. I am the place where God shows up. Right? You are the place where God shows up. And when we get that, when we become the place where God shows up, we are truly living our life to the fullest. We are awake, alive, aware, and living life to our fullest. Let's affirm that together. Oops. Bruce, the PowerPoint went away. We have to start the, I don't think I can do it from here. Well, let's just do this. That's good. Let's affirm this together. I live my life to the fullest. And let's take a deep breath. Let's remember that we are the place where God shows up. And affirm one more time. I live my life to the fullest. I affirm this truth for each and every one of us.